This is Radio Health Journal. I'm Reed Pence. This week, an innovative program to help mothers in prison.
There was a gap in between there from where I was to where I wanted to go. And so that's how it began to come up as something that I needed to save my own life by trying to help.
Ex-cons giving back when Radio Health Journal returns.
I'm Nancy Benson, host of Radio Health Journal. If you enjoy listening to Radio Health Journal, you'll also like our sister show, Viewpoints, which covers a wide array of topics from education to history to the environment. Here's a preview of what they're covering this week on Viewpoints.
People were really interested in cooking thematically, so people would throw yellow dinners and orange dinners and pink dinners.
We explore the interesting trends and themes of early American cuisine in the 1920s and 30s. Then,
a waitress will bring this big slab of cream pie to the table, and just like you look to the table next to you and you look over and say, I want a piece of that, you know.
You're gonna need to grab a piece of pie after this story. I'm Marty Peterson.
And I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth this week on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.
Listen to Viewpoints on your favorite radio station and subscribe and listen to shows anytime on Apple Podcasts and Google Play.
The United States has about 1.4 million people in prison, more than any other country. The fastest growing demographic group there is women. Their number has increased tenfold in the last 40 years to about 230,000. Two-thirds of those women have children. Until she was released 8 years ago, 46-year-old Nina Porter was one of them. She has 13 children.
I spent most of my adult life incarcerated. I was never honest with anybody about how many kids I had because of the shame. They would go to their father's families when I would get incarcerated.
In 2011, Nina gave birth to her daughter Gianna with her ankle chained to the prison bed. But this time ended up different. She was able to keep her baby with her in her cell at Indiana Women's Prison. It changed her life.
I didn't even know I was missing it, to be honest with you. I didn't know that I didn't get it. I mean, nobody thinks that they're a great mom. I believe very many people in our neighborhoods do feel like we're great moms because of our environment. It's a big thing, you know. But when I felt what it was like to actually feel the maternal instinct to protect and provide for Gianna, it was alarming that I didn't have that for my other kids. It turned my whole life around.
Nina was a different person coming out of prison a year later, but the world she re-entered still didn't want any part of her or her daughter.
We called 49 places when it was time for me to be released with Gianna, and not one place could take a woman, let alone a woman with children. There was not even an opening at a homeless shelter. And so that's where I kind of began thinking to myself, here I am ready to be a legit mother. You know, I felt like I was at the starting line of a race, and kind of when the gun goes off, you don't get to go running with everybody else. So there was no place that would take a woman with a child, and there was no place that would take a woman with felonies coming out of prison. So I had a hotel room the first night paid for by PACE, and then the second night we were back to the lifestyle I had before I had her, pretty much.
That's extremely common for women coming out of prison, especially moms.
There are many more opportunities for men, from housing opportunities to service opportunities, than what we find for women. And especially women with children, women who are pregnant or are coming out with having to parent children.
Dr. Jack Turman is professor of social and behavioral sciences at the Fairbanks School of Public Health at Indiana University.
What's really important is she really needs that positive social support system, because if she lacks that when she gets out, there's a risk that she's going to go back to the social networks or the social support systems that got her incarcerated in the first place. And she might do that not because she wants to, but because she needs to survive, right? I mean, she needs to have a roof over her head. And if she has a baby, a child that she's responsible for caring for, you know, she needs to find some place or some way to make money to help meet those basic needs.
You can almost step back and just think about what's needed. I mean, obviously, gainful employment, not just a job, is important. Having access to health care, having access to housing support, so that you can afford, a roof over your head. The basic necessities that, anyone needs, the women and the men returning from jails and prisons.
That's Dr. Pamela Lattimore, Senior Director for Research Development in the Division for Applied Justice Research at RTI, a nonprofit research institute. She says programs in prisons may be good at providing vocational training and drug treatment, but they usually don't give women like Nina the resources to survive when they're released.
I mean, I can't even conceive of not having a criminal record and trying to raise children on a minimum wage, $300 a week. I mean, how do you do that? But if you're having trouble even finding a minimum wage job and also trying to reunite with your children and establish a household, it's just very difficult.
Nina was no exception. She had no one showing her the way.
I don't have any family or friends, so I would work, and I was paying a babysitter with the tips that I was getting in Beech Grove, which by the time I went to work and paid the babysitter, I was earning about $20 or $25 a day, and that's how much it took to pay that. So we did that for a little while, but then, that doesn't pay anything. And it wasn't too long before we had to move back to the neighborhood that I was from. There wasn't too long after that I went down a dark, deep hole of, my past, of just kind of living the same way, hustling, just trying to get money any way I could.
Eventually, Nina didn't feel worthy of much of anything. She'd signed up for a program with Dr. Turman, the grassroots maternal and child health leadership training project, but felt like she had no business being there.
When I became a maternal and child health leader, at first I quit because I didn't feel like that was a title that I could carry or to be a part of anything that said maternal and child health. It gave me a little setback. I didn't feel entitled to have that as a job or to have anything to do with that.
It got so bad that Nina contemplated suicide. But a well-timed visit from a social worker convinced her that this time, with Gianna, it was different. She didn't have to live the old way. And by helping others, she could help herself.
It wasn't my space anymore. Like, that wasn't who I was anymore, and I was there. It was like I didn't belong in either world. I wasn't in the hustle world or the survival world anymore, but I wasn't a legit parent with a job to take care of my child either. So there was a gap in between there from where I was to where I wanted to go. And there's a lot of moms there. And so that's how it began to, come up as something that I needed to save my own life by trying to help.
Nina and Turman secured grant money from the Indiana State Department of Health to start a program called Mothers on the Rise. Over the next year, the pilot program will help 10 moms from the Indiana Women's Prison to have a better chance of success when they and their children get out.
The program is 6 months in duration. We start working with women, incarcerated women, 3 months before they're released. These are all women that are a part of the nursery program in Indiana Women's Prison. And they really work with the women on the curriculum, really deals with understanding their assets and understanding what kind of jobs that they're interested in and skills they're interested in building, and really understanding what their needs will be when they're released, so that when they're released, everything is set in place for them. They are good to go, right? And then there's 3 months of post-release mentoring that happens by Nina and her intern and all of our wonderful community partners, so that when the woman is released, woman and her baby are released from prison, then they're going to be mentored and helped for 3 months.
Our final goal and our final objective is to personally and professionally develop these women into being able to obtain safe and stable housing for her and her baby by herself, and to be able to maintain it, not just get it, but to maintain it, and to keep on professionally, personally, and always growing. Because when you change your lifestyle, whether it was your family that you were doing this lifestyle with or that lifestyle, or absolutely no support at all, which in our zip codes is another really big difference. Even if you live next door to a woman for 5 years and you have the same age of children, chances of you being close, friendly, or even supportive to each other is null and void in our neighborhoods. It is a dog-eat-dog world. Everyone's stepping on everyone's head. Everybody has a little something going on of unhealthy rituals or habits or, flaws that have happened in their life to keep them from being the healthiest that they can be.
Terman says the 3 months of support after release is key to helping women get on their feet and stay there.
When they're released, their baby will have high-quality daycare full-time for 3 months. We've learned from women that have come out of prison that this is a huge barrier for them, that they don't have daycare programs for their children. And so it serves as a barrier for them to go out and get jobs or get job training or go back to school. And so with our grant and with our program, we overcome that barrier. We provide high-quality daycare for the baby for 3 months. Every woman gets a bus pass for 3 months. She gets a clothing allowance. She gets everything she needs to take care of that baby, like to make sure that the baby has a safe sleep environment, a car seat, a stroller, food supplies, everything that is needed to take care of that baby.
Whatever they need, whatever their stumbling block, whatever is in their way, we want to get it. We want to build them up and build their kids up and let them see that there is more. There is something outside of this box.
Also importantly, Terman says, women in the program will have Nina as a mentor. He says the peer part with someone who's figured it out is what's been missing from many other programs.
She lived through it, so she can really start working with the women before they get out to kind of let them know, as a person who's experienced it, this is the things you're going to have to be aware of. These are the red flags we have to look for. These are the places you can go. These are the places, the people you can connect with. This is really important. The individuals are given all these resources, right? Contact this, right? Well, what if you don't have a phone when you get home? What if you don't have any money? Nina knows all of that. She's lived it and she's experienced it, and she knows places that will be warm and welcoming to a formerly incarcerated woman who's parenting a child or is pregnant.
For Nina, that means a hands-on approach for every mom, and each one needs to be different.
We need to wrap our arms around them and completely understand that every individual has their own case plan, because nobody has the same hurts, hang-ups, and habits. Some people might need self-esteem. Some people might have great self-esteem. They just have maybe a reading problem. Some people might not need everything, but some people might need the most. And so what we're hoping to do is just connect them with resources and support that already exist.
But will that kind of care continue even if it's shown to work, along with the resources needed to make it work? Programs like Mothers on the Rise could have a tremendous impact in human terms if we made them more widespread. They could even save states money by keeping people from lives where a return to prison is their ultimate fate. But Lattimore says that will take an attitude adjustment on the part of the American public.
We can pay lip service to rehabilitation, but in the end, what we really want is retribution. And so the level of support that we're willing to pay people, and what we really to pay for people, is much less than what's required, when in the end, what we really want to do is just punish people for what they've done, for doing something bad. And until, I think, as a society, we come to terms with that, it's going to be very difficult to stand up the kind of programs that you see in Europe and in Scandinavia in particular, where rehabilitation as a goal of incarceration is taken very seriously.
Yet it seems we always want people to feel the consequences of their actions. But Nina Porter says those weren't what changed her life. Those just made her feel worthless.
The consequences never, ever changed me. Going to prison my whole life, abusive relationships, none of those things ever changed me. It was actually the blessings and the good things that people did do that helped us make it through to where I did get out of that dark hole. The deeper and the darker your abuse or your flaws, your hurts and hang-ups and your habits, those take a long time to change. If it's deep-seated things that are within a woman that start from her childhood, it takes a lot of support for her to love herself enough just to be on a level ground to want to take care of her child the way that she knows that she should.
You can find out more about Mothers on the Rise and all of our guests on our website, radiohealthjournal.org. I'm Reed Pence.
And that's Radio Health Journal for this week. Radio Health Journal is a production of MediaTrax Communications. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more. And check Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify for a library of past programs. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and information about our guests at radiohealthjournal.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Radio Health Journal.
Coming up next week on Radio Health Journal.
I just was astounded. I absolutely could not believe it. I mean, I can't think of a crueler thing to do to a mother or a family than to falsely accuse them of abusing their children.
If kids are playing alone in a park, should you report the parents for child abuse?
Then, have scientists finally found the key to healing an injured brain or spinal cord?
When we inject these human cells into mice, it stimulates nerve fiber growth and also rescues dying nerve cells.
All that and more on Radio Health Journal.